What's up, YouTube? Back for yet another reaction for zombie survival. Who should you survive with? Family or strangers? I'll leave a link to the original video down below in the description, and I will leave a link to the person who, or the channel that put the video up. I don't actually know who it is, I forgot to look it up, but but I will do it, don't worry. Okay, let's jump in.
Survive with strangers or survive with family and friends? That is one of the most common debates between zombie survival fans and is constantly being argued in my comment section and in other zombie survival videos. But what is the answer? Because both obviously have its pros and cons, but which one is the most safest and rational choice? First, we need to figure out what makes a group successful when it comes to surviving together in a group. After doing some research, I found that a group needs to meet 10 key points in order to be capable of surviving. So what are they? Trust, mutual respect, specialization, an established objective, adaptation, vindication, admission of failure, patience, delegation of duties, and the leader. Let's decode each of these key points and figure out which group does it better. First is trust. Trust is the first thing that your group needs to have. Not only trust in each other, but trust in yourself and trust in your actions. If you can't trust a member in the group because you think they are a thief or that they're going to backstab you in a heartbeat, the group begins to fall apart. The same goes for you though. If you're thinking about screwing over your group, not only does it put your group at failure, but also yourself. And with a group of strangers, it's going to be hard to trust everyone because, well, you don't know each other yet. So surviving with friends and family has the advantage here. Mutual respect. Having respect for one another is important. Respect is when even though you might disagree with someone, you don't let it upset you or make you a rash decision because of it. Instead, you work together to find a common standing ground. An example of this is when Rick was trying to explain to Herschel what the infected really were. Even though Herschel didn't agree, Rick respected his opinion and tried to be patient and let Herschel come to realize he was wrong. Shane, on the other hand, had no respect for Herschel's belief or Rick's way of handling the situation and made a rash decision because of it. Which was not only disrespectful, but it created a domino effect. If Shane wasn't an ass, Dale would probably still be alive, Andrea wouldn't have been separated from the group, and many others would have got to see season 3. Hashtag the Walking Dead domino effect if you want to see me make that video. Strangers are just as likely to be disrespectful as a group of family and friends, so no one gets the point here. Specialization. Knowing the skills that each member of the group bring to the table is important for survival. A successful group has members that combine their specialized skills and talents to achieve an end goal or resolution. While one group member may excel at engineering, another might excel at agriculture. Together, however, they create an asset to the group that is unprecedented and creates a huge advantage in survival. A group of family and friends has a better understanding of what skills and assets each person can bring to the table, while a group of strangers will acquire this information over time. This is because less communication is needed with a group of family and friends because they already know each other. So the point goes to family and friends.
Gotta admit that if it were my family and my friends, I would probably be no use at all. I have no skills. It's terrible. It's a terrible truth, but there it is. I should have mentioned earlier on in the video that zombie stuff is pretty much the only stuff that really scares me. You know, the whole vampire thing. Vampires can be scary, of course, if you're there and vampires there. That can be scary. But the idea of zombies scares me so much, man. I swear. It really does.
Sorry, strangers, but the zombie apocalypse is kind of time sensitive, so there's not really much room for ice-breaking exercises. Establishing an objective. Your group needs to establish an objective when things hit the fan. Find shelter, scavenging, setting up defense. You're going to need to decide which is the greatest priority at that moment. A group of family and friends is at a disadvantage here though. If you pay close attention to your circle of family and friends, there's always that one person that everyone looks to make the final decision. This creates a biased sense of judgment in someone's decision. However, the group of strangers aren't biased to the judgment of others in the group because they have nothing to go off of. So collectively, they are working better at establishing an objective than a group of family and friends. So strangers get a point on this one. Adaptation. If you can't adapt to the apocalypse, then your group is bound to fail. A good example is Carol in The Walking Dead. In the beginning, she was your basic damsel in distress, always relying on Rick, Daryl, or other members in the group to save her in case something ever happened. Even when Sophia ran off, she expected Rick to go find her because she was helpless, still not adapting to the zombie-ridden world she was thrown into. But after the death of her daughter, she's seen she needed to adapt if she wanted to survive. Her helplessness was not only a hindrance to herself, but also to the group. Adaptation isn't determined by the group though, and more so on the individual itself. So neither group get a point on this one. Vindication. When mistakes are made, it can be easy to point the finger and put blame on someone else. But this does more damage than you think. It can lead to distrust and low morale in the individual or the group as a whole. And it's those things that can turn into a big problem and screw you over if it's not fixed. I mean, imagine if someone became the scapegoat in a group and it lowered their morale so much that in the heat of a sticky situation, they just gave up. And when you need them most, they aren't capable of helping because they've had the finger pointed at them so many times they feel useless now. It's a big problem a group can face, and a group of strangers has a far more likely chance of this happening. Studies show that when friends are working on a project, they are more likely to share the blame on a screw-up, whereas a group of strangers are more likely to point the finger at someone for a screw-up than just sharing it as a whole. So the point here has to go to a group of family and friends. Admission of failure. This sounds kind of like the same thing as before, but I can assure you that it's not. Resisting to point the finger when someone screws up is not the same as admitting when you yourself screwed up. And admitting when you screwed up could save the group a lot of problems. One of them being losing the trust of your group. You should always be confident in your abilities, but when you drop the balls, you should be able to admit it and say, hey, I screwed up. And surprisingly enough, I thought that this would be a lot easier to do with a group of friends and family, but it turns out I was incredibly wrong. Recent studies show that we are more likely to hide our failures from our friends and family than a group of strangers. When you
tell you, that's actually true. Yeah. I would be less likely to tell my friends, family that I screwed up with a bunch of people I don't really know. Yeah. I totally agree with that one.
You rented that car and apologized nonstop to the driver in front of you, but when you told your friends the story, now they magically slammed on their brakes? When you messed up on the assembly line at work and told your supervisor you made a mistake, but told your parents that the machinery was faulty, even though it wasn't. It's called self-serving bias, and it's our way of protecting our ego and our status within the group. That group being family and friends. And when you're in a group of strangers, you haven't yet developed that status yet, so you're more likely to admit your failures. So the point here obviously goes to the group of strangers. Patience. A lack of patience with group members can create a high amount of stress and tension between each other, leading to all sorts of problems. And studies show that a higher amount of patience leads to a higher amount of success. But just like some of the others, patience is an individual trait, not a group trait. Patience is a trait that relies more so on the individual, but is found to be a lot higher with a group of family and friends. So the point here goes to family and friends. Delegation of duties. When giving duties to your fellow team members, it's important to give the right job to the right person and to make sure that work is distributed evenly. But even if you're not the one delegating these duties, it's important to make sure that the duty that you get matches the skill set that you have. For instance, in the first season of The Walking Dead, when the Atlanta group survivors went to the city to scavenge and met Rick for the first time, Andrea and Jackie should not have been there. Andrea had no idea how to defend herself. I mean, she didn't even know about how the safety works on a gun. And Jackie didn't even have a weapon. And while I'm at it, T-Dog shouldn't have been there either because Merle was obviously racist, which means Rick wouldn't have had a reason to handcuff him to the roof. Clearly, Shane was doing a piss poor job at delegating duties. It sounds like family and friends get another point for this one, but actually they don't. It's the fact that the group is strangers that they were able to make it out of the city alive. And it's because they aren't making decisions based on emotions, but rather the safety of the group as a whole. If Glenn's parents were alive and with him, would they have let Glenn go scavenge in the city? Probably not. Nope. At the time, Glenn had a hard time saying no and played the role of zombie bait. Because let's face it, our friends and family care about our well-being and don't want to put us in danger. And sometimes it's hard to separate a rational decision from an emotional decision. Because it's those decisions that blur the line between making a good call and a bad call. So the point here has to go towards a group of strangers. The leader. Many people like to argue that you don't need a leader to make a group successful, but that's not true at all because human history proves it wrong. Humans have a natural instinct to lead or to be led, just like it's always been. But the job of a leader isn't just to lead or to be some kind of superstar. The job of a leader is to be trustworthy, self-assured, ambitious, and to keep the group morale high and know when to rally the group. It's why people naturally started following Rick in The Walking Dead and why no one questioned him when he announced his Rick-tatorship. So who does it better, the group of strangers or the group of friends and family? Family and friends have a better understanding of each other's skill sets and have more trust with each other. But the problem is they are more likely to pick the leader based on the hierarchy that's already been established before the zombie apocalypse, which is usually the father, the older sibling, or the oldest member. Not only does history prove this, but so does The Walking Dead. Rick is the leader of Lori and Carl. Herschel is the leader of Maggie, Beth, and the rest of his family. Merle is the leader when it comes to him and Daryl. Ed is the leader of Carol and Sophia. Andrea is the leader when it comes to her and Amy. And Morales is the leader of his family. So it's clear to see where leadership would fall if it was just the family. And as you can see, almost all of those are terrible choices except Rick and Herschel, and well, Merle is debatable. Strangers, on the other hand, are picking a leader based off of objective information. Who has the best skill sets? Who is the most trustworthy? Who is keeping everyone's morale up? And who is making the most rational decisions, and so on. So another point goes to the group of strangers. But wait, if the group of strangers have 4 points, and the group of family and friends also have 4 points, then who wins? I'll give you a hint. It does not matter. When it all comes down to it, you don't get to decide. You don't get to decide to just survive with family and friends. You don't get to decide to survive with just a group of strangers. When the zombie apocalypse initially happens, yeah, you do for a little bit. But you're going to run into those moments where if your group joins another group, it's just going to make your chances of survival that much better. Because there is a strength in numbers, and if it can make the group stronger, then it would be a dumb decision not to do it. Makes no sense, it's just stupid. And after a while, those people that you once called strangers, you're going to be calling family. My name is Tyler, and now you are one step closer to surviving the zombie apocalypse. See you later.
Okay guys, that's the end of this video, and sorry I didn't really react much. There wasn't really much to react to in this one, I found. That was a bit disappointing for me, but you know, I liked the video anyway. It's very informative. If there ever is a zombie apocalypse, now I know it doesn't matter if I'm with family, friends, or strangers. If you survive long enough, you will get to trust people, and yeah. So, don't forget, like the man said on the screen, don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, hit notification bell, and I am out of here.